gotta turn that off. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, there we go. That was the one thing I forgot today. Hello, Nikki. Hey, Julie. Hey, X. Hey, Nasa Mike. Hey, Justin T. Hey, Paul. Hey, Karen. Welcome in, Night Dwellers. Hey, Pamela. Hey, Shirley. Welcome to our newest moderator. Shirley, welcome in. Hey, Boss Man. Hey, Karen Coleman France. Hey, Judy Willis. Hey, Sandra Jefferson. Come on in. Hello, Billy 73. Hey, Ray-Bab. Hello, Alicia, Indiana girl. Hello, Teresa. Thank you for sharing the live. Hello, Dad. Hello, Rhonda. Welcome in. Monday is over. Yes. Now it's time for story time. Hey, Cece. Hey, Melanie. Thank you, Ray-Ban. I love this one. Probably one of my favorites. Like my more normal ones. Thank you, Krista. If this is your first time in Twisted Tales Live, come in and introduce yourselves. We would love to meet you. Oh, I love James. Big brother Jimmy. Today is your 50th birthday. Well, happy birthday, Alicia. Did you get what you wanted? Oh, I love that. Oh, peanut butter cookies. Oh my goodness. Teresa, the story I am telling tonight, The Enfield Haunting. Hello, Harley fan. Today, dark green. I love it. It is. It's like a jade green. Hello there, witch. this off. I'm pretty sure. I'll check again. Oh, great. Now I mess with it and it won't let me turn it off. I gotta wait a minute. I swear, I need to just leave good enough alone. Okay, I'm leaving it alone. Hey, Nana Sherry. Oh, I'm glad you like it, Teresa. Hey, Mia. Hey, Rhonda. So good to see you. Thank you for sharing the live, Shirley. Hey, Firefly. Hey, Mandy. Oh, for sure, Kimber. Exactly. Hello, Racing Sun. You liked it, Nana Sherry? Good. My Jessica has been greatly missed. So good to see you. Chillin' Monday. Tonight's a chillin'. The infield haunting. Let's start sharing the live. Let's start tapping. Tap, 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 tap. Please. Thank you. Oh, wonderful, Nana Sherry. Eric Jones, hello, darling. Angie, thank you for sharing the live. Thank you for the heartbeat. Hello, Anita Sutphin. Thank you for sharing the live. Hello, Clever Fox. Hey, Anne. Welcome in, welcome in. Hello, Melissa. Hey, Ohio girl. Hey, Shell. Thank you for sharing the live. Let's get into story time mode, shall we? Tonight's gonna be a creepy one, but that's only fitting for a chilly night. Hey, Siamese. Welcome to the dark side of storytelling. Oh, good. Welcome, night dwellers, to the night realm. I am the Night Queen, and tonight is Chiller Monday. Tonight I am telling you a story so terrifying, you're gonna want that blanket. The Enfield Haunting. That's right, we are traveling across the pond to my territory, to the Enfield Haunting. But first, let's enter into story time, shall we? Lower your lights. Lock your doors. Light a candle. Pull your curtains nice and tight. Wrap yourself in your warmest blanket to avoid the chills that are about to crawl up your spine. And let's begin. Hello, Pocono. Hey, just sent a gift. Have you heard of the Enfield Haunting? No. Well, you're about to. Let me know in the comments if you have. Tonight will be told in first person from the women in this house who encountered this demon, poltergeist, ghost. You'll make your own mind up by the end. But first, let me know in the comments. I'm ready. Love you, Nikki. Chapter 1. Before the knocks. It was August 1977, and our house at 284 Green Street was just our house. We've been there for years. Me, my mom, my older sister Margaret, my younger brother Johnny, and the baby of us all, Billy. Dad had left us by then. So it was just my poor mom trying to raise the four of us. Life was ordinary. if a bit cramped. Margaret and I shared the back room. The boys had the smaller room across the landing, and Mum had the front bedroom. The house was a typical council semi. I suppose you would call it a townhome in America. 2 stories, narrow hallways, no frills, the walls were thin. In summer, it faintly smelled of the warm tarmac outside, and the washing Mum hung in the back garden. In winter, it smelled of damp coats and the paraffin heater. We almost froze in that house. There was hardly any insulation at all. School was about to start back after the summer holiday. We were not able to afford a holiday like most. We'd spent those weeks in the garden, on the street with friends, or helping Mum. She worked hard to keep our home running, but money was tight. I was 11 then. Margaret was 13. We never thought of the house as strange. It creaked like any house does. The plumbing clanged when the toilet flushed, but I heard that in every house that I visited. The wardrobe in our room leaned a little to one side because one of its legs was shorter than the others. We didn't have new furniture. We just went to thrift shops and managed to buy what we could. On the evening of August the 30th, Margaret and I were in bed when we first heard it. A faint shuffling sound. We thought maybe one of the boys was up, moving around, but the sound was coming from inside our room. The next night, the noise was louder. It was almost like a knocking. Yeah, a knocking sound. Kind of like this. It was sporadic. I remember saying to Margaret, "That's not our brothers." She told me to shut up and go to sleep. But we both listened. We listened to hear it again. A few nights later, something happened that made us sit bolt upright. Our beds began to shake. Not violently, just enough to feel like someone had a hand on the frame and was testing it. And then came 3 slow knocks. From near the chest of drawers. We told Mom in the morning. She brushed it off, just like I knew she would. Said it was probably the bed springs or the pipes. Told us not to scare the boys. But we knew that she didn't like the sound of it. I could just see it in her eyes. I caught her looking toward our room later that day. Her face was drawn tight. That evening, it went further. The boys were downstairs with Mother. They were watching something on the telly. We were in bed talking quietly when we heard a long scraping noise, wood against wood. We both looked at the wardrobe. It wasn't moving. We realized that it was actually not coming from the room this time. It sounded like it was coming across the whole landing. We got out of bed, walked across the landing to my brother's bedroom. The door was shut. When we went inside, I almost could not believe my eyes. The beds were moving on their own, away from the wall into the middle of the floor. It was moving, sliding, slow and deliberate, across the floor. We screamed for Mum. We ran downstairs. Mom, the beds upstairs are moving in Billy's and Bob's room. What are you talking about, girls? Go back to bed. A few more minutes passed, and we heard Mom. I got out of bed. I never listened. That's part of my problem. I tiptoed across the landing, opened the door, and she was in there trying to push this heavy, stout bed back against the wall. She couldn't do it on her own. It was far too heavy. Margaret had joined me at that point. Here, Mum, we'll help you. So we pushed the bed back in place. We told her good night again. She switched off the light, shut the door, and we went back to bed. It was about 5 minutes later, we heard it again. Mom came running up the stairs this time. We were screaming. She switched on the light in the boys' bedroom. And there it was. The 2 twin beds in the middle of the floor again. But this time, it was as if they had formed a defense, as if barricading us from coming in the room. After that, more furniture began to move. Our wardrobe began rocking slightly, and then started just moving across the floor. We tried to push it back, but with the 3 of us, it was still way too heavy. It was as if something heavy was holding it in its place. That was the moment she stopped telling us it was just the pipes. Because at this point, we knew better. Mom was scared. She told us to get out. We grabbed our blankets, went next door to the Nottinghams, Vic and Peggy, who were our neighbors and friends for years. Mom told Vic what had happened. He didn't believe it could be anything out of the ordinary, so he came over to have a look himself. Vic later told reporters that as soon as he stepped inside, he heard knocking from upstairs. When he called out, "Who's there?" the knocks answered back. Three times, loud and deliberate. That night we didn't sleep in our own house. We all bundled up on the floor and made pallets with our blankets and pillows. It was the first time I remember feeling like we weren't safe. I had always felt safe in that house, but not now. Question. If you saw heavy furniture move on its own, night dwellers, would you run immediately or stay and try to prove what you saw? First person, Peggy Hodgson, the mother. The police see it. I'm not the sort of woman to panic. I've raised 4 children on my own. When something's wrong, you just deal with it. I was going through a divorce. I had 4 children to take care of, but after what happened with that wardrobe, I knew this was beyond me. That night after we stayed with the Nottinghams, I brought the children home. I told myself maybe it was all in our heads, but I kept hearing that incessant knocking upstairs. They weren't random. They came in burst, 3 at a time, loud enough to carry through the floor. That day, the knocking was almost continuous. I called Vic over again, and he heard them too. He shouted up the stairs, "Who's there?" And straight away, Vic turned and looked at me. "Peggy, you need to call the police." "For what?" "Someone could be in your walls. As thin as they are, they could be in my walls." But I did. I called them. 2 officers arrived just after 1 a.m. PC Carolyn Heaps and a Mel colleague of hers who I was relieved to see them. You'd think if the police are here, then nothing bad can happen, right? Everything is under control. We took them in the kitchen to talk. I explained about the knocks and the wardrobe, feeling like a complete imbecile the whole time that I was talking to them. And as we were speaking, we heard a noise from the living room, a scraping sound. PC Heaps went to look. She sat down in one of our dining chairs to take notes, and then, without warning, the chair slid sideways, with her in it, about half an inch right across the floor. She stood up straightway and said, "I saw that move, and I felt it." I felt vindicated, because when they walked in, they acted like we were making all this up. And we weren't making all this up. They checked the chair, they checked the floor. There was no slope, no hidden wires, nothing under the legs. PC Heaps later gave a statement saying she couldn't explain it. They also heard the knocks for themselves. They went upstairs, searched every room, checked outside in the garden, nothing, no one. Her report would later say that the disturbances were of unexplained nature. But to me, it was more than just unexplained. It meant something. Someone else, someone with authority, had seen what was happening in my house with my children. And even though that should have been a comfort, it wasn't. Because if the police couldn't stop it, then who could? That night after the officers left, I locked every door and window. Vic, he suggested staying over, and I did not turn him down. But it didn't make a difference. The knocking started again before the dawn. Question. If the police saw something strange in your home, but couldn't stop it, moving furniture. Would you stay? Or would you leave? For good? Chapter 3. Men with Cameras. Janet. After the police saw the chair move, word got around very quickly. It wasn't long before people from the Daily Mirror began turning up. I didn't like it. Cameras around their necks, notepads in their hands, looking at our house like it was already halfway to being a headline. They asked me to tell them what had been happening. I didn't like talking to them. I didn't want to. Mum, do I have to talk to these people? Yes, darling. Just tell them what has occurred. They were strangers, and they had that look in their eyes like they were waiting for me to slip up, to make a mistake. I told them hesitantly about the knocks, the wardrobe, the chair. They nodded and wrote things down, but I could tell that they were not convinced. I could tell that they thought that we were just a bunch of liars, and that it was just a bunch of hodgepodge, as my Grammy says. I didn't like it. I wanted them to leave. But then, the house decided to speak for itself. We were all in the living room when it started. Loud knocking from upstairs. One of the photographers ran for his camera. Then, out of nowhere, one of my brother's marbles flew across the room. It didn't roll. It shot out from the near wall and bounced on the carpet. A few seconds later, another toy, a Lego brick, zipped past my ear and hit Maurice Gross, who had just arrived, right on the forehead. I didn't know it, but when Maurice walked in our home, the activity picked up. Maurice wasn't a reporter, from what I understand, though. He was from the Society for Psychical Research. He'd come to investigate. I remember him checking on me first thing. Are you all right? Before he even looked at the Lego brick. That made me feel like he wasn't just here to catch me out, like he was actually concerned. The reporters, though, the minute they saw it happen, their faces changed, and I'm glad, because they went from half smiles to something else, something that resembled fear. Like they'd been standing in the shallow end and just realized how deep the water really was. We weren't making up the knocks. We weren't making up the furniture scraping across the floor. That marble we did not make up. And the Lego brick we did not make up. All of it was real. All of it. The knocking carried on upstairs. Everyone heard it. Mum, our siblings, the reporters, Maurice. We all went upstairs together. We opened the bedroom door to my brother's room. The beds were moving back and forth across the floors. Maurice started putting pencils across the tops of the bedroom doors, balancing them so they'd fall if the doors moved. He set up tape recorders in our rooms. You could hear the soft click as he pressed the red button, then the quiet spinning of the reels. It scared me. It scared me very badly. He would ask simple questions. Is someone here? Can you knock once for yes, twice for no? We got a single knock, and then another, and then a pause, and then 3 sharp knocks. It was as if it was trying to confuse us. It was as if it was trying to laugh at the rules that Maurice had put in place. Photographers stayed for hours, hoping for more. They wanted to see more. Some of the photos that they took that week would end up in the papers, including the ones where it looks like I'm up in the air. People argue about those. It doesn't look like I was up in the air. I was up in the air. Like invisible hands under my ribs, lifting. That day was the first time I understood the thing in our house liked an audience. And he wasn't shy about performing. Question. If something in your home seemed to perform more when people were watching, would you invite witnesses or keep it a secret? Chapter 4. Bill speaks. Janet. I don't remember it starting as a voice. It started as a feeling in my throat, not a sore throat, not a tickle, more like there was something sitting there, waiting. One night, with Maurice and a few others in the room, I coughed. And then right after I coughed, because it felt like something was tickling my throat, my vocal cords. Right after I coughed, it coughed back. Maurice stopped what he was doing and looked right at me. Say that again, Janet, he said. I tried, but the next thing that came out of my mouth wasn't mine. Just say what you feel that you need to say. There's nothing to be scared of. I was going to say that I wasn't scared, and instead, this voice issued out of my mouth. Not your house. It was deeper, older, like a man's voice, wrought from years of smoking. It didn't sound like me at all. Mom gasped. Margaret grabbed my arm. I could see their faces, but it was like I was standing somewhere behind my own eyes, listening. I remember Maurice got very close to me. What's your name? Bill, it said. And then without being prompted, I lived here. I died here. I sat in that chair downstairs. I went blind. Blood stopped. And I went to sleep. I had no idea who Bill was. But later, Maurice did indeed find records of a man named Bill Wilkins, who had lived in our house before us. His son confirmed that Bill died in the living room, in a chair, after suffering a brain hemorrhage. The voice didn't just answer questions. It swore, using terrible profanity. It laughed. It mocked. Sometimes it used other voices. Rougher, faster, like different people taking turns. Maurice had me to hold water in my mouth while he asked questions just to prove that I wasn't faking. And even with my mouth full of water, the voice kept going. He recorded hours of it on tape. At first, I hated when it spoke. It made my chest ache. And after it was over, my throat would burn like fire. But after a while, I realized the more it talked, the more everyone believed us. And that was complicated. Because I didn't want to be the girl with the voice. I just wanted to be a girl in her own house. Question. If a stranger's voice came out of someone that you know that was not their own, would you keep talking to it to get answers? Or would you leave it alone? Chapter 5. In the Air. Margaret's voice. I don't know. One moment everything was perfectly normal. And then the next all hell broke loose. I'm the oldest. I'm the quiet observer, I guess you could say. Where Janet runs off at the mouth, I just watch. People talk about the photos, the ones of Janet in the air. Some say that she was jumping. Others say she was thrown. I know what I saw, and it wasn't jumping. Janet was sitting on the bed, just as easy as I was. And then some invisible force just pulled her up into the air. Someone said that in the photo it looked as if she was smiling. That wasn't smiling. That was terror. Horror. What if whatever it was that was holding her released her and she fell from the ceiling to the floor? I can promise you, we were not smiling, we were not laughing. It was terror. I know what I saw. She was not jumping. The first time it happened, it was evening, and Janet was lying on her bed, messing with a bit of thread from the blanket. I was reading, as I always am. And then, just without warning, she was off the bed. I don't want to remember it, because it was so horrifying. I've never seen anyone's back arched at that angle. Her legs were bent underneath of her. And no one talks about this, but she was being pulled by the hair. Her hair was being pulled as if someone had knotted their fingers in it and was just lifting her up off the bed. Not like she had pushed herself, like someone had hooked her from behind, yanked her up, and was holding her in the air by her hair from her scalp. She didn't scream. She looked shocked. She looked gone, eyes open but not with us. Maurice took that horrible photo, and I remember that the shutter click snapped me back into myself, and I screamed, "Put her down!" She dropped onto the mattress. Not a huge fall, but it was enough to make the bed frame shake. It wasn't just Janet that was attacked in this. It wasn't just her. I saw so many different things. Things moved, cushions, toys. The fireplace grate in the bedroom once fell forward with a crash. It was a common thing for Maurice to see marbles roll across the carpet without spinning, as if something invisible was pushing them. We'd pick them up and put them back, and they'd go again. And then there was that voice. I don't know if you ever heard this part. It liked to mimic us, especially Mum. One evening, I heard her call my name from downstairs, just as clear as a bell. "Margaret!" When I went to the landing, she was in the kitchen talking with Maurice. She hadn't called me at all. That's when I realized that it could sound like any of us. I was taking a bath. I had just stepped out. I was wrapping the towel around my body. "Get out of there! Some of us have to use the bathroom too." I opened the door and no one was there. but it sounded exactly like Janet. At night, it would sometimes say things just to frighten us. Once, when Janet was in bed beside me, the voice said, "They're all mine." And it was followed by this low, sour laugh. It never shouted, whether it was saying profane things or singing or just talking or whispering. I never heard it raise its voice above a certain level. And that almost made it worse, because it didn't have to. And them saying that they all were his, that terrified me. People can say what they want about the photos. They can say that this was all a hoax and that it was all made up. I promise you, I tell you this, it was not. You don't have the nightmares every night like I do, like Janet does, like my mom did, my brothers. The camera never caught the feeling in the room when something happened. It never caught the terror and the fear and the dread when she was lifted above her bed by unseen hands. Like the air got heavier for the rest of us, so it could be lighter for her. Question. If you heard a family member call your name, but then found them somewhere else entirely, what would you do? We are going to go to an intermission, and when I return, I will read the last 5 chapters of The Enfield Haunting. I do hope that you are enjoying it. Nikki says, ignore it. I'll be right back. Scared yet? Hello, elevated goddess. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. I know. No matter what, here's another one of my favorite candies. Jolly Ranchers. I love them too. Hey, Debbie Maple, how are you, darling? I'm never prepared for that scream. Hey, Pocono. There we go. I don't know why that turned off. Oh, thank you. Anne Huckleberry. Thank you so much. You know, I was looking at the pictures today and I'm getting ready to actually show everyone. Okay, love. And I saw some pictures today and I was looking at the pictures of her when she is floating on the bed or when she's up in the air, and it is absolutely terrifying. It really, really is. Can you imagine? I mean, if you look at this pic, she's not smiling. That's not a smile. That looks like a look of terror. And not only that, but she is away from the bed. Do you notice that? Yeah, mimicking is where I just completely draw the line. I mean, it's just like, no. But do you see that? She is not on, like she's not above the bed. It's not like she is jumping, you know, up and down on the bed. I did that as a child. This girl is in the middle of the floor. It is scary. Very much so. Glamour Fox, it was Maurice that took this picture of her. She's terrified. And then if you look, and then you can see the pictures of the other children. It's absolutely terrifying. And I started looking at it today and I'm like, no, that's not a smile. That's not a smile at all. Here is another one. And this is actually in black and white. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, here is another one. I mean, I'm just kind of examining I'm just kind of examining these as I'm looking. Right. Witchcraft can be very scary, indeed. Now, when I was little, I loved a trampoline. The higher that I went, the better. But this is not a trampoline. Here's another shot. This is Margaret's face in the bed. This was in London. She's terrified. Oh no, it is no laughing matter at all. She's absolutely terrified. Hey, Emerald Dragon later. Oh wow. Look at this one. Look very closely at that. I know it did. But he usually does, Melanie. That laugh is something else. Legend. She is literally coming up off the bed in that photo. Y'all crack me up. Here is the family. That was her sister. Hello, Gothic Princess. I'm good. How are you? This is in the 1970s. Oh, I love that, Gothic Princess. Thank you so much. Yeah, this was in the 1970s and lasted for years. Okay, this one's terrifying. Oh, you know it. The poor sister in the bed is just she's terrified. She's absolutely terrified. I was going to show a picture of the house, just so you kind of get an idea. Really, Hector? Oh my goodness. So that was the house. Oh, I can imagine Glamour Fox. I don't know yet, NG Lock. We will get into that here in a moment. Just such a terrifying story. Here's another one. It does. Looks so normal on the outside, but yet on the inside is pure hell. terrifying. Oh, most definitely, for sure. I guess, Steve, because they didn't really have anywhere else to go. I know I've heard many documentaries on it, and they were poor. They were very poor. She had been through a divorce, lost everything. She had the kids, you know, so I guess they just couldn't leave. All right. Let's get back into story time, shall we? Lower your lights. Lock your doors. Is that candle still lit? Pull your curtains nice and tight. Wrap yourself in your warmest blanket to avoid the chills that are about to crawl up your spine. And let's begin. Chapter 6, The Americans. Janet. By the time the Americans came, we were tired of being someone else's story. All that autumn into 1978, the house had learned new tricks. It didn't need to shout anymore to get its way. It could push quietly, slide a pillow while you were talking, breathing down a stairwell so you turned twice before you found your footing. Maurice kept his vigil, always beside me, drew room plans and questions, and we kept getting up in the mornings because mornings still happened, even here. Mom would make coffee for everyone that was there, or tried to make breakfast, even though her hands were shaking terribly. Word had traveled farther than Enfield. farther than London. It crossed the ocean and came back with names. Names you knew even if you didn't keep up with Ghost. Ed and Lorraine Warren. Mom said their names like people say the doctor. A mixture of hope and a bracing for bad news. They'd worked big cases, apparently. People listened to them. Films would listen to them later. But this was them. And all we had was the day they turned up to 284 Green Street. Without bus or fanfare. No one was expecting them. Their coats were damp from the sort of English rain that pretends it isn't there, but it is. And it soaks you to your skin. Mom opened the door. I remember the old lady walking in first. Small, tidy eyes that didn't skim past things. She didn't go for the handshake right away either. She stopped on the threshold, like the air had words on it and she was reading. I just remember her looking around. "There's a presence here," she said softly. It's not human. I never heard an American voice before in my house. And I remember her husband, Ed. He had that steady, practical way about him. Straight to the point. Straight to Mum. "You've been through hell, ma'am," he said. "We'll do what we can." He wasn't smiling. He was deciding. The truth of the matter is that Ed and Lorraine Warren were only at our home for one day. Movies depict that they came in and moved in with us, but that is not the case. They didn't sweep the house like policemen do. Lorraine moved as if the rooms themselves might bruise. One hand lightly on the banister when we went upstairs, listening with her skin. Ed asked for facts. When did the voice begin? What words did it use? Did it blaspheme? Did it threaten? How often did objects move? Could we predict it? Provoke it? Halt it? And then he started asking me questions. I didn't like him. He told me about the cough that wasn't mine. The name, Bill. The chair downstairs, the water in mouth test. He listened without that reporter look, the one that measures you like a headline. He kept glancing at the corners, not the center like Maurice did. It made me feel. And then he reached a hand out to me. "We're gonna help you, young lady." I felt seen in a way that didn't sting. They stayed with us in the front room first. No performance. The house preferred to waste famous people's time like anyone else. Ed didn't push. Lorraine watched the curtains lift a breath without the window open. And even though the reporters were pointing, she did not say a word. She just tilted her head. The way you do when you're sure of something and waiting for it to prove you right. Maurice, careful as ever, he kept to the side, but he was watchful. He made room for them without moving his chair. When we went upstairs, Lorraine paused at the landing. She touched the wall with the back of her fingers, like testing the temperature of a kettle. Listen. Listening. "Here," she said. "It likes this place." She meant the bend in the corridor where something changes shape. I've always felt it there too, like the house kept a pocket for secrets. In our bedroom, Ed asked if the voice had spoken yet that day, and it hadn't. Bill had been quiet. He nodded as if no was also a kind of answer. If it speaks, he said to the room, not to me. We're listening. I remember the couple being very patient. We sat for a long time with nothing. The kind of nothing that takes effort to keep. Mum tried to be busy, straightening nothing, setting down cups with too careful a hand. Margaret kept close enough to touch me without making a show of it. Lorraine sat in the chair by the wardrobe, eyes half on me, half on what wasn't there. And then the room tightened. You could feel it. How breath knows when a storm decides. My throat gave that old crease. I swallowed against it. I said, don't, without sound. It came anyway, like a radio catching a station no one wants. Not your house. Mum's knuckles went white on her cup. Ed didn't blench. Who are you? He asked, plain as a door. Bill. How did you die, Bill? Chair. Downstairs. Is there someone else here with you, Bill? Ed asked. He knew how to put a question so it didn't give the answer away. The air pushed against my teeth. We. Lorraine's voice stayed soft. You're not alone, Janet. It wasn't a comfort, it was a fact. She shut her eyes just once, like listening from a different angle. Later, she would call it inhuman. In that second, she didn't name it. She just took its measure. The house did smalls after that. Never the big theater light with the cameras. A marble slid from under the chest of drawers and stopped under Ed's shoe. The bed shivered once beneath me like a dog shaking off water. The wardrobe door found its finger, width open and held there, polite, and said, Ed asked questions about faith. Bill didn't like it. About the divide and isolate pattern these cases take. I will try to break your lines, Bill. Mother from daughter, sister from sister. And then he turned to Mum. Don't let it choose your arguments for you. Lorraine took Mum's hands. The living belong together, she told her. Keep them close. Ed didn't offer a spectacle or ritual. He offered warnings. Don't feed it with fear, you say out loud. Don't barter with it. Don't repeat its words for it. Sleep near each other when you can, never alone. Speak softly. When you pray, pray for the living. He left a small cross with Mum before they went. No flourish, no speech. They were not with the society. They had came on their own. They didn't fold into the long British watch Maurice and Guy had kept. Their visit was brief, an edge in the book, if you will, not the whole chapter. There are stories that will tell you it was their case and it's not true. It was just a few hours. That's a film's way of loving a story. Ours was lived, and there was only a day in it. But here's the truth I keep. They never looked at us like performers. They did not ask us to prove our fear to earn their belief. They stood in our small room with our small beds and our 2 small breaths and believed. And the house, it just like that. After they left, the house felt thinner, like a rope pulled tight between 2 points. That night the knocking returned to the old game of answers, 1 for yes, 2 for no. Except it tapped out nothing that made sense, like a sulk typed in code. The voice tried for blasphemy, uglier than usual, loud enough to scrape my throat raw in 3 words. I refused it on the 4th. The bed gave its inch of warning and stopped, as if something had leaned off it at the last second. Maurice was holding my hand the entire time if I should take flight. Mom tucked the cross that Ed Warren had given her into the wood frames of the mirror. Margaret and I pretended we slept sooner than we did. When we opened our eyes in the thin pre-morning, the wardrobe door was shut, properly shut, all the way, like someone had decided to be neat for once. The Warrens did not save us. They could not finish what had not finished with us. Their visit did not flip a switch and turn us back into a family in a normal house. No, it never works like that. But it did something I didn't know I needed. It told the thing in our rooms that the world was watching with its best eyes. Sometimes when a story gets larger later, the day it really happened gets smaller. I don't mind that. I remember what it felt like when the door opened and Lorraine stepped in and listened. And Ned stood like he was taking a measurement, not of the room, but of the fear, and said, "You've been through hell. We'll do what we can." The house heard that, and for a little while it backed away. Not gone, never gone, but 2 steps down the corridor, hand still on the banister, thinking. Question. If 2 renowned investigators told you that what was in your house wasn't human, and to hold your family tighter, would you feel safer, or certain that the worst was yet to come? Chapter 7. A Mother's Line. Peggy. People think a haunting is all thunderclaps. It isn't. Most days I was still a mother. Plates washed, uniforms dried on the radiator, baths run on Sundays. Ordinary keeps you from going to pieces. It also gives the thing something to interrupt. I had been standing between it and the children for months. First 1977, then into 1978, but I didn't realize when it started aiming for me. It get in the kitchen, which is where a mother lives. I was at the sink, hands in hot water, ring slipping on my finger like a little fish, when something thudded into the back of my calf. I turned, expecting to tell one of the children off, and found one of the sofa cushions on the linoleum. Everyone else was in the front room. No one had thrown it. Another day I was wiping the table when a Lego bit caught me on the temple, just straight out of the air. Snapped out of nowhere. Same as I'd seen happen to Maurice. It stung. It made my eyes water from shock, not pain. It picked up the piece and I put it beside the cooker as if it was something you could just tidy away. It learned our voices. That was worse. I heard Peg in my mother's old tone, a sound I hadn't heard in the house for years. I dried my hands and called back, coming, to no one. When I stepped into the hallway, the air was empty as a pocket. Later, it used my voice again. And then I heard, Mom? It was Janet. She ran downstairs. She came quick. What is it, Mom? I didn't call you, I said, and watched her face fold into a shape I didn't know how to smooth out. Yes, you did. No, I did not. But I knew that I knew who had. Nights were worse, because nights are longer when you're listening. I lay in bed with the landing light on and counted footsteps. Even though Maurice and his team was downstairs, I did not feel safe. I lay in bed with the landing light on one night and counted footsteps, slow, deliberate, a man's weight beside my bed. They stopped outside, just outside my door then. The shadow on the far wall thickened and thinned as if something was swaying, very slightly, impatiently against the hallway. I got up once to meet it, or to prove it wasn't there. The landing was cold. We absolutely were forbidden to close our doors to our rooms. The sound stopped. By the time I reached the boys' room, both were asleep. I looked in. A plastic soldier was propped against Billy's lip like a dream he'd taken to bed. I turned back and saw only myself in the hall mirror, a very tired woman, back straight, hands empty. It prepared small cruelties, a kettle that rattled on its base without boiling, a plate inching toward the counter's edge while my back was turned, the curtain in the front room lifting though every window was shut. That was one of the main things that it would do. It had manners, in a way. It didn't tip the table, it nudged it and asked who owned the room. The children learned to read to me to calm me. If I said early night, they knew I'd hear it all afternoon in the walls. If I said leave the light, they knew it meant the house would be busy. I was careful with my words, just as Ed Warren had warned. Don't let it pick your arguments for you. It wanted dividing. It wanted to divide us. It got none. I made rules for something that I couldn't touch. Rule 1, ordinary first. Supper, homework, baths, bed. If the cup slid, The cup slid. Don't say anything about it. Rule 2. No bargains. No. If you stop, I'll. Never start a sentence you don't know who's finishing. Rule 3. We stay together. If it pulled one child away, we went toward them, not away. Those rules weren't magic. They were rope. Sometimes all you can do is tie yourself to each other and refuse to drift. It is like that too. One evening I was sitting under the telly shelf, mending a hymn. The children were all there. Janet sulky over her son, Margaret acting unbothered, the boys trading Lego men like diplomats. Maurice had his little tape turning, the sound like a cat sleeping. And then from nowhere, a marble slid across the carpet and tapped my shoe. And then another. And then came one by one, not rolling so much as traveling, as though the floor had decided to make lanes. I picked them up, put them in a jam jar, and screwed the lid on tight, as if lids mattered. Are you all right, Miss Hodgson? Maurice asked. I'm busy, I said, and kept stitching. It learned timing. It waited until I stepped in a bath to send a knot running across the landing. It waited until my hands were in dough to slide the bread tin an inch. It waited until bedtime to mock my voice at the foot of the stairs. Not loud, just there. When it wanted to be seen, it showed itself in the way a house can. The grate fallen forward, the bed shivering, the wardrobe standing with its door exactly a finger width open. A detail I once thought was just a quirk of the wood, and now read like a signature. I didn't tell the children every time it aimed at me. What would that buy us? More fear in a house already paying out too much. But you can't hide everything. A child knows when their mother flinches, and in nothing. Sometimes I spoke back to it. Not in ceremony, just as a woman talks to a stray dog she won't let in. In the kitchen one night, it was late with the street quiet as I held breath. I put both hands on the table so he wouldn't see them shake. You listened to me, you bastard. You're not taking my children, I said. Calm. The way you say, that's enough to be a toddler who's throwing peas. The tap jerked twice. The room felt like a listening thing. If it answered, it did it in the way the air slightly loosened, then tightened again. As if filing my sentence where it cut the ones it didn't like. I tried an ordinary prayer sometimes, nothing inflammatory. Just the shape of a plea that doesn't offend anyone. Keep us, I'd say to the living, to the day coming, to whatever listens isn't that cruel. The Warrens had said to pray for the living, and I did. And when the house mocked me in my own voice from the hall, Peg? I did not answer. You don't feed a trick. You don't turn your head for it. It struck me once more, meaner. A small metal bit from the fireplace pinged off the door frame and caught my knuckles. The children saw me bleed. That's what it wanted. To show them that I could be hurt. I washed the cut under the cold tap, wrapped it in a strip of tea towel, and went on with what I was doing. Not courage, policy. If you don't give it your face, it will try to take your hands. There were witnesses plenty by then. Neighbors, reporters, police, the society men, even the Americans. Their belief hadn't quieted it. But believe me, I didn't have to spend my life proving my fear to strangers before I was allowed to have it. In 1978's long nights, when it pushed hardest, the thing that kept the roof above our heads wasn't holy water or tape recorders, it was housekeeping. I bought kettles, I folded shirts, I put coins in the meter. I set out shoes by the door for the morning and made the world keep the appointment it had made with us before all this began. When it imitated my mother's voice again, Peg, I felt something go through me that wasn't fear. It was anger at the theft. I stood in the hall and said, "Don't use my mother's voice." Out loud, in my voice with my throat, that was all. A line. And for once, just once, it went quiet like a child told off who cannot think what to do with the feeling yet. It didn't stop because I told it to. It didn't stop because anyone clever was watching. It faded the way weather fades when it runs out of itself. But until that day, the only thing I had to hold was ordinary, done fiercely, rules spoken calmly, and a refusal to let it choose what kind of mother I was allowed to be. You can underestimate a kitchen table, but I've seen a woman's hands on wood, mine, be the only barrier between a house they wanted to take and children who needed to stay. Question. If something in your home could wear your voice, how would you draw the line? Answer it to learn its rules, or refuse and risk what it does next? Chapter 8, The Weight of the Wall. Janet. They told me, the men with the tape machines, the Americans with their soft voices, that the worst was over. Maurice assured me of that. They were wrong. By late 1978, the house was no longer content with moving chairs or knocking behind walls. It wanted more. It wanted to touch us. The night it tried to kill me, I'd gone to bed late. The air was heavy, almost wet, and my room smelled like the inside of an old ashtray. Margaret was already under the blanket, facing the wall. I thought she was asleep until she whispered, "It's here." I didn't have to ask what it meant. The first noise came from inside the wall. Not knocking this time, but a scraping, like something was digging behind the plaster. The wallpaper trembled. I sat up, my hair static, and that's when the fireplace in the corner gave a groan. It happened so fast. The iron frame jerked forward, dust puffed out, and the whole thing tipped toward my bed. I didn't even scream. There was no time. I threw myself sideways, hit the floor, and rolled under the bed as the grate slammed down where my legs had been. Margaret yelled for Mum. Maurice and Guy came running. I was still under the bed, coughing on soot. Guy helped drag the frame back upright. "You could have been crushed," Maurice said. His voice had a clipped, edgy guard when he was frightened, but didn't want to show it. I wanted to tell him I'd felt hands on it, as if something I literally pushed it toward me, but I didn't. Saying it out loud made things worse. I learned by then to keep my mouth shut. It wasn't just the fireplace. The house started using anything it could lift. A tea tray hurled itself at the sofa while we were sitting on it. A pair of Mum's knitting needles shot across the room like arrows and stuck quivering in the wall by the doorway. One night a glass ashtray sailed from the mantel and shattered against the far wall, sharp glitter pulling into the carpet. Thank God no one was near it. And always it was watching. I'd wake up to the sound of something breathing. Not in my ear, not in the room, but through the room, as if air itself had lungs. Sometimes my blanket would tighten around my legs, my throat. Sometimes the pillow would tug against my head, slow, deliberate, as if it wanted to strangle me. I woke up one night with the pillow pressed tight across my face. The worst was the night that it came right up to my bed. It was around 3 in the morning. I remember because the light from the street lamp hit the clock face just right. I opened my eyes and saw the shadow before I heard the sound. It wasn't a man's shape or a woman's, it was wrong. It was bent in the middle, the head tilting too far forward, like it was peering at me. Go away, I whispered. My voice shook. It didn't move. It leaned closer, the air thickened, my chest went tight, like I was breathing water. I reached for Margaret, but my hand stopped halfway. My arm would not obey me. That's when I realized I couldn't move anything at all. The only thing that worked were my eyes. I was paralyzed. It held me there for what felt like minutes. And then, like letting go of a string, it released me. My body snapped back into itself. I rolled off the bed and hit the floor. By the time I looked up, the corner was empty. Mum started sleeping lighter after that. If she heard me stir, she'd be in the room in seconds. But even she couldn't stop it from following me. The night after the fireplace, Maurice bought a camera with a flash. If it shows itself, we'll have it, he said. But the thing was clever. It didn't appear. Instead, it threw a slipper at his head, hard enough to leave a red mark. He swore and then apologized to Mum. The thing laughed, not out loud, but in a way the whole house seemed to creak all at once, like the walls were in on the joke. By now, I'd stopped wondering if it would hurt me. I wondered when. I started going to bed with my shoes still on, in case I needed to run. I kept a torch under the pillow. Some nights I'd lie there with the beam on, pointing straight at the wardrobe. The light would catch on the brass knob. And once, just once, I swore it landed on an eye. Not a human eye. Too dark, too still. The thing about being the one it targets is you learn to feel it before it acts. Your skin changes. The hairs on your arms know before your ears do. The house tilts in its own way, and suddenly you're inside its attention and you can't get out until it lets you. I wish I could tell you that the Warrens scared it off. They didn't. If anything, it seemed to enjoy them for the short time that they were there. More people to show off too. It would save its worst, but when it was just us. And sometimes, lying awake, I'd think, what if it isn't trying? to scare me? What if it's trying to keep me? Question. If you knew a house could decide to keep you, would you dare sleep another night under its roof? Chapter 9. The Last Hard Nights. Janet. People think hauntings end with the bang. Ours tried to. Then it learned that slow hurts longer. By the end of 1978, I was older, in the wrong places. Not taller, older. You can hear it in the way footsteps hit the floor. Mine landed like I was bracing for an answer from a question I hadn't asked yet. The voice still came, but less eager to show off and more interested in setting heavy on a room. It had learned us. Our meal times, the sound of the meter when Mum fed it coins, the way Margaret's throat cleared when she was about to be brave. It didn't need to throw teacups every night. Some nights all it did was wait. And I swear that that was worse. Maurice kept vigil. Guy kept asking the right questions, and the Americans had already crossed the sea again. People say they saved houses. Ours didn't want saving. It wanted keeping. The last peak began on a night that felt ordinary enough to betray us. Rain that didn't commit. The street lamp buzzing like a trapped fly. The smell of wet coats and stew. We had almost made it to bedtime without incident, which is a dangerous kind of hope. I know what all of us were thinking. It hasn't happened yet. Are we going to have a night free? And then the tapping started. Not knocks, not a show, but like a pencil on wood, somewhere no pencil rested. Tap, tap, tap. The rhythm crawled under my skin the way a song does when it chooses you, it won't let you go. Maurice noted the pattern. Guy timed the intervals. Mom continued laying out bowls for morning like time would obey if she kept setting its table. Upstairs we heard the creak of wood. Maurice went upstairs to check. The wardrobe marked its inch of opening again. Its signature. That's how we knew that it was there. The curtain belly breathed through the window was shut. The bed gave one warning tremor. We all pretended not to see it, so we wouldn't make a meal of it. Near midnight, it tried me again. Not with lifting, with pulling. I felt the mattress draw me sideways. The sheet tightened across my chest like someone taking in a scene. I said nothing. The bed checked once, then twice. The second time hard enough that my shoulder kissed the headboard. I said nothing. Margaret woke and grabbed my sleeve. Janet? Nothing. Nothing. The voice arrived late, low, out of patience. Get up! I didn't. The bed quivered. I heard nothing. The wardrobe's door tapped its frame like a tongue on teeth. Up! I hear nothing. Maurice stepped into the doorway, the tape already alive. "Enough!" he said, not to me, to it. "You've been heard, and we don't want to hear you anymore." It held for 10 breaths. That was all. The scratching in my throat left, the burning. The next night, it picked a different game. Distance. I would blink and be 2 steps from where I'd been, not thrown, not dragged. Placed at the window with the curtain around my shin, in the narrow pinch of the landing where sound changes shape. Once wedged against the skirting board with a bruise blooming like spilled ink across my hip, and no memory of crossing the space between. By January 1979, the house had made a habit of nearly crushed by the grate, nearly suffocated by the pillow pressed once and released, nearly pulled from sleep into a place that I didn't feel like a room, nearly as a long word, when you must live each letter. On a Sunday, quiet church bells far and thin, rose smelled from someone else's life coming in through the cracks. We tried to treat the day like a truce. Mom did shirts. Margaret read the bits of the paper that wouldn't frighten the boys. I pretended to do homework, pencil hovering above sums that meant nothing in a universe where wardrobes moved. The truce held until tea. Then the marbles began again. One, then another, rolling with no roll, traveling like they'd chosen a lane. Guy traced the path with his pin and shook his head. Maurice picked one up. "It's warm," he said, still surprised by warmth after all that time. A Lego brick skidded to a stop against Mom's shoe and had the nerve to look innocent in its little studs. We went to bed early as we'd agreed with the house, in this day, before it finds a new trick. The last bad night started sweet. I remember that because sweetness is how you recognize endings after the fact. Billy's snore was the small machine down the hall. Johnny's dream muttered something about a match. Margaret tucked my hair behind my ear, her sister's quiet sacrament. Mom stood in the doorway a second longer than usual and said nothing at all. And then the landing light clicked off. I woke to pressure, not weight on my chest, but under me. The mattress hardening like wood. The room tilted a fraction toward the corner. The voice didn't speak. The silence had that listening quality. I said a thing I never said out loud. No, just that. To nothing. To everything. The bed shivered once and stopped. The knock returned, 3 at the wall behind my head. The old greeting. And then nothing. Not a truce. A decision. It wasn't interested in the child that night. It drifted instead down the hall, where Mom's door was almost but not quite closed. I heard the slow steps, the pause, the landing held its breath. Mom told me in the morning she dreamt of her mother calling her that night, calling her Peg in a voice just wrong enough to wake her. She did not open the door. She would not answer a thing that borrowed love for work. And then the slope we'd been climbing changed degree. Not up, but down. Not all at once. A taper, like a candle that remembers its pinette. Through spring of 1979, the voice spoke less. The lifting came rarely. The throws were small and lazy, as if it had said what it came to say and found no use for repetition. Skeptics will draw lines through this part. Circle their therefores. Attention waned, children grew, the press went looking for another story. Maybe. But what I know is that I learned to hear ordinary again. Tap water, pigeons, the neighbor's radio, sound without a motive. I was sad when Maurice packed his suitcases. He still visited from time to time, guided too. They did not declare victory. They took notes on quiet as faithfully as they had on fear. A few last flurries came, once a cushion leapt from the sofa like it remembered a date. Once the curtain reached out and then thought better of it. Once the bed gave a polite hello before thinking, no, not tonight. The final time I felt truly watched was small as a coin. I was dressing for school. The wardrobe door stood not quite shut in its old habit. I pressed it with 2 fingers. It stayed. All the way. Click. No triangle of dark peeking back. I stood there longer than the moment needed, waiting for the joke. It didn't come. That evening, I went to bed first on purpose. I lay listening for this signature that never signed. The underbed knock, the breath in the corner, the slow grin of the mattress. Instead, I heard rain. A bus. Margaret's page turn. Mom's cup on a saucer. Morning happened and nothing argued with it. Does a haunting ever end? People ask me all the time. I tell them noise ends. Attention ends. Houses run out of weather, but once you've been carried without the hands, once you've listened to your name come out of a mouth that isn't yours, a part of you lives with the door open, a crack forever, just in case. Years have passed, and there's not one night that I don't think about it. I got older the right way after that. I learned to laugh without listening for footsteps between breaths. I learned to say Janet and hear only me. The house kept its rules. We kept our names. If there was a winner, it was time. Question. When the knocks finally fade and your house remembers how to be ordinary, do you close the door in your mind or leave it open? Just a crack. Just in case something listens back. Chapter 10. Chapter 10. What the house gave back. Margaret. I suppose that there's a way rooms sound after a storm. Not quiet. Emptied. By 1979, the house at 284 Green Street had that sound. ask me all the time what changed first when the haunting began to thin. Easy. We noticed ordinary again. The kettle boiled and meant only tea. The hallway creaked and meant only weight on wood. A draft was a draft. A shadow was a shape, not an answer. That didn't happen overnight. Bill did not leave overnight. It came like mornings do in winter. Incremental. Barely there until suddenly the window has a color again. The knocks were still possible, but you could go days without one. It was almost as if he grew tired and just didn't want to be heard anymore. The voice didn't just vanish, it lost its appetite. Objects moved rarely, lazily, as if the house had remembered it was more work than fun. I remember one morning I was sitting on the couch and a little teacup moved just about an inch. What did we do after this? We tried to live in it. We walked home from school with hands in pockets, sore breath, and argued about crisp. Mom bought washing powder in a bigger box and called it planning ahead. The boys traded football stickers like the universe had never cared for Poltergeist. You learned the price of normal by what you'll pay to keep it. Maurice was connected to Janet in a way that I had never seen. He still came, faithful, tired. He wrote notes. Guy still asked very careful questions, drew final diagrams, circled old dates to see if new ones echoed, but there was nothing there. I just remember that by the autumn of 1979, the house sounded like a house again. Not cured. Houses don't get cured. They get occupied. And we filled it with laundry, arguments, dumb jokes, laughter. We gave it the kind of weight that makes floors complain. When I think of Victory now, it isn't holy water. It's dishes done. It's a pencil dull from homework. A towel hung straight. A channel changed because the show was boring. I like boring now. Yes, I like boring. Night dwellers, you have walked the narrow stairs of 284 Green Street, and you've returned with me. You heard the knocks that answered. You watched a wardrobe drift across the girl's room, beds move to form an alliance, and a voice take up a residence in a child's throat. You stood with a mother while she drew a line simple as wood. I believe that might have been the turning point. You can't have my children. And in the end, you felt the house begin to grow tired, and the living grow strong enough to be ordinary again. Remember this. When the dark comes tapping, not every knock deserves an answer. And not every silence means you're alone. The living belong together. Keep a lamp in the window. Keep a hand free for someone who is still in the stairwell between shadow and morning. Shall we leave the door only almost closed, just in case something tries to listen back? When street lamps thin and kettles sigh, I stalk the seams where houses lie. In stairwell bins where sound grows strange, I count your breaths and mark the change. I thread your dreams with borrowed thread, then tuck the living in with dread. I sit where mothers place their tea. I mouth your name so tenderly. I whisper your whispers like a key to lock you where you cannot be. I pace the landing no one sees. I teach your windows how to freeze. I learn the rhythm of your plea. I crown the hush with Iban glee. My stories bury deep where they cannot flee. And in the darkest corridors of your nightmares, you belong. To me. You do. Pleasant dreams.